Imagine you and a friend witness the same event, a sudden downpour on a sunny day. But while you feel a refreshing surprise, your friend grumbles about the inconvenience. This simple moment shows that two people can experience the same reality, yet come away with entirely different interpretations. Have you ever wondered why your experience of a moment can feel so different from someone else's, even when nothing about the event itself changed? Welcome back to another Broken Podcast. I'm Nick Taylor. Today, we're going to dive into the idea that perception is reality, a concept that reveals how the way we interpret our experiences directly influences our mental well-being. We all know that our mental health is deeply intertwined with how we see the world. Whether it's interpreting a challenging situation or reflecting on shared memories, the unique lens through which we view life affects our emotions, stress levels, and our overall outlook. As this is a newer podcast, I'm excited to be on this journey with you. I may not have a community of guests or an extensive listener base yet, but I invite you to join in on this conversation. Your thoughts and reflections, no matter how small, are what will eventually shape this podcast into a shared space for growth and understanding. And I always wanted to feel like we're having a conversation between us, never as if I'm just talking to you. We're in the middle of a wild ride called life together. Throughout today's episode, I'll occasionally ask you to reflect on your own experiences. There's no pressure to respond, but if something resonates, feel free to jot it down and share it with us. Remember, there is no right or wrong way to see the world. Even when we experience the same moment, the insights we gain are uniquely our own. By understanding and respecting these differences, we can build a more compassionate view of ourselves and others. We are all out here taking in the world within our own lives, through our own senses, and taking from each moment what is perceived at that time. The unique way we all do it differently from one another presents a matchless beauty. During this week's episode, we'll explore how our individual assessments determine the takeaways from our own experiences, how our communication styles influence what we hear, and why our baseline reality is more fluid than we often believe. We'll also look at how these dynamics directly impact our mental health, offering insights into how a shift in perspective can lead to emotional healing. This episode is all about opening our minds and our hearts to new ways of thinking. Whether you're looking to better understand your own mental landscape or simply curious about how perceptions mold reality, you're in the right place. One of the best things about the human experience is that it's not the same for any two people, which leads to endless possibilities of creativity, discovery, and innovation. Each of us views the world through a unique lens crafted from our beliefs, past experiences, and inherited biases. This personal filter shapes how we interpret events and interactions, leading to individual perceptions of reality. Our perceptions influence how we focus on, process, remember, interpret, understand, and act upon our experiences. This means that our version of reality is, in many ways, a personal construct shaped by our perceptions. This is one of my favorite things about diving into the rabbit hole created by the statement, "Perception is reality." 3 simple words encompass the vastness of outcomes within any given situation at any given time by anyone. Even something as simple as viewing a shooting star can be a beautiful observation through a telescope for one individual, a moment of awe for a couple watching the night sky, but also could simply be a quick glint within the corner of an eye of somebody driving down the road. Even if they were all within relative proximity of each other, the effect of that single moment is vastly different for each individual. Given that our perceptions are influenced by personal factors, two individuals can experience the same event but come away with entirely different interpretations. This subjectively underscores that there isn't a single correct way to perceive a situation. Each person's perspective is valid within their own context. We spend every day blending our individual mosaics of experiences together through communication, interaction, and even just proximity. It's almost mind-boggling to think about the fact that, in the grand scheme of things, every person you know has their own unique perspective of who you are in their own mind. The manner in which we express ourselves, our communication style, significantly affects how our messages are received and understood by others. For instance, individuals with anxiety may exhibit self-focused gestures, such as playing with their hair or clothing, which can influence how their communication is perceived. This is one of the things we have to consider with each other when we interact. Although someone may perceive that anxious response as being inattentive, it is simply the anxious person trying to remain grounded through a situation that is overstimulating for them. So often things are misinterpreted that could be cleared through looking at the situation empathetically. Ineffective communication can lead to misunderstandings, which may strain relationships and negatively impact mental health. For example, passive communication, where individuals avoid expressing their true feelings, can lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, or burnout. This is something I have struggled with myself, and learning to effectively communicate my feelings in situations is difficult after spending so long with people-pleasing tendencies. Oftentimes, I would agree to things for the benefit of others even when I didn't want to. The end result was that over time, I resented the relationships in which people would ask for help with things often, yet never spend any quality time with me. I felt like merely a tool, but it was a result of my inability to say no. In a way, that left the other party unknowing of the strain that had been created on the relationship due to the internal conflict that accumulated through each passive interaction on my part. Recognizing and adapting to different communication styles can enhance mutual understanding and reduce likelihood of misinterpretation. This adaptability fosters healthier interactions and contributes positively to mental well-being. There are 4 main communication styles: passive, aggressive, passive-aggressive, and assertive. Knowing these and being able to identify them in real time can make a real difference in getting your point across effectively, as wording a single message to convey the same meaning would differ based on which communication style resonates with the person you are communicating with. If I had just communicated that I was being burned out to the people who called on me for help, the outcome of those interactions could have been completely different. They may have seen me coming to help them as quality time, whereas I was perceiving it as being utilized as a workhorse, who they knew would always say yes. 2 completely different interpretations of the same interaction, perceived differently due to communication or the lack thereof. Even when people share a common event, their individual perceptions can lead to different memories and interpretations. This divergence occurs because each person's unique experiences and biases influence how they process and recall events. When we recall a childhood memory, the perspective we have is based off of our size, sensory input, and working knowledge of the world at the time. But if we watch the same memory through a home video, usually recorded from an adult's perspective, the scene will definitely appear completely different, and unfortunately for us, a lot less magical. Understanding that different takeaways from the same event are natural encourages empathy and reduces potential conflicts. Acknowledging that these differences are not about right or wrong, but simply variations in perception, can strengthen relationships and enhance mental health. That is one of the reasons that this conversation holds so much merit, because if we only look at perceptions as a black and white, right or wrong perspective, we don't only limit communication with others, we can actually end up putting unnecessary strain on ourselves, others we interact with, and relationships. Our brain actively constructs our perception of reality by integrating sensory information with prior knowledge and expectations. This means that what we see, hear, or feel is not just a direct reflection of the external world, but also influenced by our internal mental processes. Have you ever found yourself looking at something from afar and trying to figure out what it is? And you can see it as like 3 possible things. The longer you spend and the closer you get, you're able to narrow it down to what's really there, but until then, you could visualize it as the other 2 possibilities. Your brain is doing that constantly at insanely fast speeds, which makes it an incredible machine when you think about it, but it does mean that there is room for error as well. What we thought we heard from someone's inflection or perceived as their tone when reading a text may be completely off base from what is truly intended. When our perception becomes distorted, it can significantly impact our mental well-being. For instance, individuals experiencing psychosis may have altered perceptions that feel entirely real to them, even if they don't align with objective reality. Recognizing these perceptual disturbances is crucial for early intervention and effective treatment. I will be completely honest with you guys, because there's no shame in it. I have experienced this myself firsthand. Due to my past experiences through life, and as a combat veteran, I had a psychotic break shortly after a recent trauma, where here, back at home, someone made an attempt to attack me while I was at work, with the intent to bludgeon me to death. Due to the compound of that trauma, my PTSD from military experience, and various other experiences throughout my life, this sent me into a manic state. I never once thought that this could happen to me, but it did. My perception at the time was that I was under constant threat, and in a single day, I thought that I was shot at in my backyard and believed with my whole being that my attackers had traced me down. I called law enforcement, who determined that kids had shot fireworks in my direction through the trees rear of my property. Something in me just couldn't believe it wasn't them, though. Then, later that night, the power went out to my house. I was sure it was them, coming to finish the job and leaving me blind in the dark while they could attack. I threw the generator on, cleared my property, improvised a chlorine gas bomb, ready to go if I needed it, and patrolled my house throughout the night to ensure the safety of my family. I was certain that these men were out to get me, and my efforts had kept them at bay. I was in complete fear that my presence was an immediate threat to my family, so I left. I was gone for 3 days before I finally came down from my manic state. Fireworks and a squirrel that chewed on power lines sent me into a state in which I felt I was fighting and running for my life. After I came home, I went to my VA for inpatient treatment. I had never experienced anything like it, and firmly believed that I never would in my lifetime. But under the perfect storm of conditions, I landed in a place where my perception of reality was completely altered by fear, trauma response, and hopelessness. This brings me to cognitive distortions, which are irrational or exaggerated thought patterns that can reinforce negative emotions and behaviors. Common examples include overgeneralization, catastrophizing, and black and white thinking. These distortions can lead to a skewed perception of reality, affecting one's mental health. These don't have to happen at a grand scale like a mental breakdown. In fact, they usually happen through more passive thoughts that build up like a snowball running downhill into negative beliefs. Cognitive restructuring, also known as cognitive reframing, is a therapeutic process aimed at identifying and challenging these unhelpful thought patterns. By replacing negative thoughts with more balanced and accurate ones, individuals can improve their emotional response and overall mental well-being. Here's a quick framework of what that looks like. So the first thing is identifying negative thoughts. You have to recognize automatic negative thoughts that arise in response to specific situations at the time that it's happening. Then you want to challenge it with evidence, evaluating the validity of these thoughts by examining evidence for them and against them. And then you're going to reframe that thought, developing a more balanced perspective that aligns more closely with reality. Engaging in this technique can lead to more flexible and adaptive perceptions of reality, promoting better mental health outcomes. The challenging part is to start catching these cognitive distortions as they come in. But that is a really important skill to have in order to combat depression and anxiety. Everyone experiences negative thought patterns. It is how we handle them and challenge their validity that helps us ground our perception back in what is truly happening in the moment. We all experience moments where negative thoughts take over. Cognitive restructuring is a way for us to step back and gently challenge these thoughts, replacing them with more balanced and empowering perspectives. Think of it as having a conversation with yourself, one that's supportive and kind. Whether you're new to this or have practiced it for a while, remember that every small shift in thinking can make a big difference in how we feel. Understanding that our perceptions are subjective and influenced by various factors encourages humility and openness. This recognition allows us to accept that our version of reality is not the only one, fostering empathy towards others' experiences. Embodying this concept can really make a difference as we navigate the vastness of interacting with others. Empathy comes naturally to some as what can seem as a blessing and a curse. but it can also be learned as a skill to include the perception of others in how we speak, act, and react. It's a formative skill. It may not be a simple one to master, but just by practicing it and attempting to look at things from an alternative perspective, it can really impact the interactions we have with one another. Embracing the fluid nature of reality opens doors to personal development. By acknowledging that our perceptions can change, we become more adaptable and resilient in the face of life's challenges. Sometimes all it takes is a slight change in how we view a situation to open up new possibilities. Cognitive reframing is about looking at challenges with fresh eyes so we can see opportunities for growth instead of obstacles. By experimenting with different ways of thinking, we can create a more positive and flexible mental space that supports our well-being. Mindfulness practices, like meditation or simply pausing to notice our surroundings, invite us to become aware of our thoughts without judgment. This practice isn't about perfection, it's about taking a few moments to reconnect with ourselves, helping us recognize when our minds are spiraling into negativity. Let's think of mindfulness as a collective journey towards greater self-awareness and emotional balance. We all have different ways of expressing ourselves, and that diversity is our strength. When we become aware of our own style and take the time to understand others, we open up space for clearer, more compassionate conversations. This means listening deeply, asking gentle questions, and adjusting our approach so everyone feels heard and respected. Let's embrace active listening as a tool to strengthen our relationships. When we listen without rushing to respond or judge, we invite understanding and build trust. By engaging in conversations where every voice matters, we create an environment where all of us can learn and grow together. Each of us sees the world through our own unique lens, influenced by our life's experiences and individual strengths. This diversity in perception enriches our collective reality. By sharing and celebrating our different viewpoints, we not only validate our own experiences, but also open our minds to new ways of thinking. It's a reminder that there's beauty in our varied interpretations of life. Sometimes we all make assumptions about a situation without realizing it. Taking a moment to pause and question these assumptions can be transformative. Let's consider this a group activity, an invitation to gently explore and revise our internal narratives. When we do this, we not only become more resilient, but also more compassionate towards ourselves and others. Education is a powerful tool against stigma. By learning about mental health and sharing what we discover with others, we help build a community where support and understanding is at the forefront. Whether you're reading, listening, or participating in discussions, every effort to spread accurate information makes a difference. We all deserve to be seen and supported, especially when it comes to our mental health. By nurturing positive attitudes and being open to learning from one another, we create a safe space where everyone can thrive. Let's work together to challenge harmful stereotypes and celebrate the diverse experiences that make up our shared human story. Today, we explored how our individual perceptions, shaped by our unique experiences and communication styles, create the reality we live in. We learned that even when we share common events, our personal interpretations can differ, and that these differences are not only natural but also enriching. This fluidity in what we consider baseline reality opens up a powerful space for change, personal growth, and improved mental well-being. As we wrap up, remember that while our perceptions shape our reality, we also have the power to adjust our focus. Whether it's shifting from a negative thought to a more balanced perspective, or pausing to appreciate the beauty in small moments, every conscious choice to reframe our view can lead to positive changes in how we feel and interact with the world. No matter how unique your experience is, there's no one right way to interpret the world. By embracing our differences and supporting one another, we foster an environment where mental health can flourish. Every step you take toward understanding your own mind is a step towards a more compassionate life. I encourage you to take a few moments after this episode to reflect on your own perceptions. Ask yourself, what's one small shift in perspective that might brighten my day? Whether you jot down a thought, share it with a friend, or simply keep it in your heart. Know that this journey called life is one we're all on together. Thank you for being here and for taking the time to listen and reflect. Your willingness to explore these ideas shows that it is a conversation worth having, and I'm so glad that we got to share it today. If you found value in today's discussion, consider sharing your thoughts or experiences, whether it's in the comments, by shooting us an email at brokenmedia1984@gmail.com, on TikTok at AnotherBrokenDad, or by simply discussing these ideas with someone close. Every perspective matters, and your voice can help inspire others on their journey. Until next time, stay curious, keep growing, and remember that your unique perspective is a valuable part of this world. Bye, guys.